Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to the post-Calder announcement team celebration chat. So great to have every one of you here. So my name is Bing. I'm from the community team at TRLab, and joining me, we have so many of my fantastic friends and coworkers from TRLab. Some of you may recognize Ryan, who's our community lead, organizing quite a few interesting programs online. And you may be familiar with Audrey, our wonderful CEO and co-founder, who I cannot wait to hear more about, her experience so far with putting together this incredible partnership. But also right now online, we have Keely, Hannah, and Jessica and Molly on the line. They have all worked extremely hard for this partnership and cannot wait to introduce all of you to them. So today is finally the day, and we have been teasing this for quite a few days. Something has been loading, and it is the Calder Question, which is an online revolutionary journey to learn about Alexander Calder's work. And I would like to share the copy we have on our website to introduce you to the general structure of this partnership. So the Calder Question: How did Alexander Calder redefine the medium of sculpture? Join the Calder Question for an online journey of discovery, getting to know this revolutionary artist through unparalleled access to Calder Foundation's archive and artworks. Answer questions and solve visual challenges as you move through the experience, and earn the chance to collect limited edition NFTs created specifically for the project. Proceeds will benefit the Foundation's new Sculpture Conservation Fund. So this is available on our website, calderquestion.trlab.com. And we cannot wait for you to start this journey with us. So first, I would like to invite Audrey. Please tell us, how did this partnership came about? We'd love to know more about it.
Hi, am I unmuted?
We can hear you very clearly.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so I've been so excited for this partnership ever since we first talked to the Calder Foundation. For those of you who have read the ArtNet article, you may have already known this, but actually the first time we met with Sandy, who is the grandson of Calder and also the president of the Calder Foundation, was during Art Basel last December. I think it was when Joshua Davis's sale was going on. We met with Sandy, and at that time, he was very against NFTs. And I think when we'll hear from Sandy one day potentially about exactly what he said to us, the language that he used around NFTs, but it definitely wasn't positive language. And we talked to the Calder Foundation. At that time, they had been getting a lot of offers of platforms that wanted to do digital reproductions of pre-existing art, and they weren't interested in it. They kind of saw it more as a cash grab. And we were telling them about the small and passionate community that we were building up, that we were seeing would actually really do care about the art and care about discussing issues at hand that is not just about the price of a project. And Sandy was like, hey, there's something interesting there with community. Like, what does it mean for a new generation to learn about Calder? And he looked at me and said, you know a little bit about Calder. You obviously are a fan, but you don't know enough. Everyone can always learn more about Calder. And so that's how the partnership started over a couple months. A lot of the people on this call, especially shouting out Jessica, really worked with the Calder Foundation to figure out the right way to approach this project. Knowing that we're working with a non-living artist, the focus was much more on the education and the gamified experience that NFTs could bring, rather than doing something that has no meaning and exists just as a digital copy. So I'm super excited that it's finally out in the open. I'm really excited that we get to share it with you guys. And for those of you in the community listening now, those of you who are early, there are definitely going to be rewards to being early, whether it being prior TRLab collectors or collectors and interested collectors that are coming in now.
Great. Thank you for sharing, Audrey. And yes, we'll share more information about early access and what does this partnership means for our long-term TRLab supporters in the upcoming days and weeks. So yeah, I would love to chat with Jessica a bit more. Jessica, could you share with us maybe a couple of most memorable, moments or memories working with the Calder Foundation so far? And the second question is, personally, what does Calder mean to you?
Thank you, Bing. Those are really great questions. Actually, let me see if I can turn off my notifications here in the Discord. When I'll be honest, when I started this project, I had seen Calder. I love art. I live in New York, so I'm like close to a bunch of museums. Have seen Calder at the MoMA, and at those times, I could appreciate the artwork, but I don't think I fully appreciated the depth of the artwork and what the artist was trying to do with each of the different pieces. And so the most exciting part about this project has been getting to know Calder, the artist, and getting to know the intentions that he had behind his artwork and the history of his artwork, and then being able to look at his artwork in a new light and re-experience them in a new way. So that, I think that answers the second question of what does Calder mean to me. I think I've had through this project, I've had a much more unique understanding of who the artist is. And he's truly, I truly respect all the revolutionary things that he was trying to do with his mobiles, with his stabiles throughout the journey of his life as an artist. Sorry, could you just repeat the first question again?
Of course, of course. So the first question was, can you share maybe a moment or one highlight through your interaction with the Calder Foundation so far?
For sure. I think one moment that sticks out to me is the first time that I gone to the Calder Foundation in person. And that was the moment I had spoke previously where I had seen Calders in the past, but I had not re-experienced him in recent. And then I had spent a lot of time thinking about the artist and working with our teammates here to come up with a really interesting idea of how we wanted to take Calder into the NFT space. And I had begun to grow a different appreciation for the artist. And I won't forget the moment that I walked into the foundation for the first time with Audrey to meet Sandy, to meet the folks at the foundation. And we were confronted with one of his stabiles, which it was, I actually don't really remember the word, but I just remember thinking, wow, this art is, first of all, a lot bigger than I had remembered.
Yes.
But also, I'm beginning, now that I've learned about Calder, beginning to understand more, very difficult to explain when you stand in front of a Calder artwork. And so that experience of seeing an artwork after spending a lot of time learning about the artist was really, really memorable. And I think anyone who has stood in front of a Calder piece can recognize that feeling. And it was cool to have that, to re-experience that.
Yeah.
If there's, sorry for interrupting. If there's one thing that we want to, I would love to add to Jess's thing is that from the very get-go, what we wanted was to amplify that intimate experience that Jess and I had at the Calder Foundation, really experiencing Calder's works in a way that like made my heart skip a beat, that you're really up close and personal with them, really want to amplify that experience, that intimacy. And listening to Sandy talk about his experience growing up with his grandpa and his experience running the foundation since he was in his 20s, really it being his life's work, and getting to know Calder and the story behind the artist and knowing so much more about what the artist could accomplish in a very different manner. And from the very get-go, what we wanted to do with the foundation was to bring that experience to collectors in the Web3 NFT sphere, and not just to have it be for a small exclusive crowd.
Yes, yeah. Especially accessibility is one of the 3 pillars of TRLab. So yes, having Calder's, the NFT dedicated to Alexander Calder that are accessible for more people is the goal of this part of this partnership. So yeah, thank you for sharing, and Audrey, for sure, the intimate experience and getting to know the fascinating life of Alexander, who traveled to so many places, worked with countless amount of great artists. Yeah, it's something super exciting that we're aiming to share with all of our members. So yeah, as we already discussed, it's never the same until you see Calder's work in person. And I know that some all of us on the team have had a chance to see at least one Calder work in person. I'd like to invite Keely. My question is, could you share with us your experience? Do you remember, is there any especially memorable Calder work that you have witnessed in person? Maybe how did you feel when you saw it? And what does Alexander Calder mean for you?
Hi, Bing. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Thank you for hosting this discussion. And I'm really excited personally to both have the incredible opportunity of working with Calder Foundation and being able to bring to light more of Alexander Calder's legacy and work. And it's just, it's personally just like a really exciting moment. And I know that there's been a lot of work that's gone into this. Going to your question, Bing, I can reflect pretty clearly on a moment that I had the very first time I went to Storm King, which is an outdoor sculpture park garden that is a little bit north of New York City. I think it's about an hour and a half north of the city by car. And there are rolling hills, many, many acres of outdoor space, really beautiful sort of area that you can ride bicycles and spend all day. And there are a number of beautiful Alexander Calder pieces. And I think for me, it's the magnificence of an Alexander Calder work when you are up close and personal with and confronted with the piece itself. I think for me, it allows me to understand my own physicality in the space because they're just so magnificent. And so answering your question, I think a lot about my time at Storm King. I've had the incredible opportunity of being able to go back a few times. And each time I take something else away from standing in front of an Alexander Calder work.
When you stood in front of that piece, you might never have imagined one day we will be working on this partnership. Isn't that magical?
Completely. I completely agree. And I'm in awe of even thinking about it. And it's, I'm excited to share more about, what we're up to, bringing more of my friends and peers and people who I know who have visited Storm King and public places. I think that's another really special thing, is that Alexander Calder has done so many works that are available for public viewing. And,
yes,
more often than not, someone may have crossed paths with an Alexander Calder work, but may not know the story and the richness of who he is and how he came to be. And so this partnership is something that I think will shed a lot of light into his life.
Great. Yeah, looking forward to learning more about his life for sure. So moving on, I would love to invite Molly, our Director of Operation and Strategy, to the chat. So hi, Molly. questions for you relation to Calder, both professionally and personally. So the first question would be, what excites you the most about our collaboration with Calder Foundation for this partnership? And the second question is, any personal story you would like to share for Calder's work?
Hi, Bing. Also, thank you for hosting. And I'm happy to sort of talk to those points. And I think on just like a higher level and a broader level, this is just such an exciting moment for NFTs, for art lovers, for enthusiasts, but also just for innovative thinkers and kind of moving technology in the right direction. I think it's really exciting that we get to play in a space that is very much drenched in history and technique and conceptualism and things that all excite us by working at TRLab and being part of the fine art world, but also that we get to be in this space again that's like has so much crossover with what the world is going to be. So I think from a professional level, this is really exciting just to be in a very unique place in history. This is a historical moment, and I don't think our team can emphasize that enough. So that to me is kind of what I keep telling my friends, my family, people who ask me what I do for my job, right? Like, this is so exciting to me. And also just the fact that we are changing the way that people are going to collect art, to talk about art. I think it's becoming more accessible. That, again, that pillar that TRLab talks about every day. We really want to bring this new age to everybody, everybody who wants to collect, who wants to learn about art, who wants to think differently about the way fine art has sort of traversed history. And so I think with Calder specifically, I think he's the perfect artist for this moment. He has been, from my own learning and education, he's been such an incredible, both like innovator in the way that he's made his own sculptures and his own works. I think a personal moment for me, and Keely stole mine, I've been the Storm King as well, and I really did love.
Sorry, Molly.
That's okay. But I think truthfully, we had actually the privilege to see some of his works at the foundation's residence as well. And it really connected for me there how, I'll steal Keely's word, of magnificent his works are, but also the ingenuity that goes into his design. I didn't really see it until I learned more about him as an artist, and also through his grandson, of just kind of the research and innovation, honestly, that he does in figuring out how his pieces work and what story they tell. So I think for me, it was both connecting the in-person visual with how he goes about thinking and making. And that was really special to me. And again, it kind of all connects to why this is the perfect moment, why this is historical, and why this is so special for TR and for me personally.
I think, Molly, something, if I can just jump in, something that you highlight, because I had the incredible privilege of going with you and with a small group of the TRLab team to the Alexander Calder studio and space. And it was, I walked away feeling like we had been transported to another time, another space, and into the brilliant mind of Alexander Calder. For one reference point, I mean, his home and studio are kept exactly the way that it always has been. It's been preserved so meticulously and so beautifully that even the smallest detail has been cared for. And it felt, I felt so honored to be there, and felt like I was able to connect with the artist, though he's not living, of course, in a way that transported time and space, or that sort of crossed time and space.
Wow. Yeah, and that's that's a studio in Roxbury, Connecticut, which is where a tremendous amount of Calder's greatest work were produced. I mean, I'm very envious. I live too far from New York to be on that trip, but I know that Audrey, you were there as well. Could you share with us your memory of that trip to Roxbury?
Yeah, I mean, so what was funny about it is like because my introduction to art was really through my parents with and my mom is such a big Calder fan. And you know, when I was first telling her about NFTs, she wasn't that she didn't really understand the technology. But when I told her that we were working with a foundation and because of that I got to go visit Calder Studio in Roxbury, she was like, "Hey, like you have no idea what that means. Like that's not a studio that even the art world usually has access to." Like she knows a lot of people, curators that have been dying to go to the studio, but I've never given access. And I think one thing that I love about the experience and what you will see with how we work with the Calder Foundation and when you'll get to meet and know Sandy is the passion that he has for Calder. It's really reflected every single step of the way. And I love that, you know, this little place of oasis that was never even open to the art world are going to be where Sandy first said to us, "Hey, like I want to be the person giving a guided tour to Calder Studio to the participants that spend time and spend their energy reading about Calder, learning about Calder, and participating in this new age experience." Like that's a privilege that I want, and a special privilege that I want to give to them more than in a way that I've never given to anyone else, because their interactions with me, just like how I'm learning from TRLab with about a new age community, would really matter to me.
Yes, yeah, definitely. We have heard that the Roxbury studio wasn't even open to some of Calder's collectors, you know, of the previous artworks. So it is fantastic that Sandy, who is a grandson of Alexander Calder and the president of the Calder Foundation, welcomed us to the studio. And I would like to actually speak of Sandy. There's an extremely strong quote from him I would like to share as we are discussing, you know, how NFTs bringing a new age to art. So there's a quote from Sandy who says, Calder was a pioneer in perception who continually reinvented ways to communicate his ideas. If he were alive today, I'm certain that he would be at the forefront of digital native art. So what Sandy means is, Calder himself would have been with us for this journey had him be alive, because he is always at the forefront of innovation, using new philosophy, using new materials to challenge our thinking, just as how the trend of NFT is challenging the whole our understanding of art and collectibles. Now I would like to move on to our other teammates. Hannah, you're one of the newest members of the team. Great that you can join us for the chat. Can you share with us, you know, what excites you the most about this upcoming partnership, and what does Calder mean to you personally?
Hi, yeah, of course. Thanks for having me here too. But yeah, as being said, I am very new to the space, very new to TRLab. So it's really exciting just to see this whole project come to fruition, and seeing the behind the scenes of like planning how this partnership has come to be. And then of course now to the announcement and letting the public also know about this collaboration. I think for me, like that's just been the most exciting part. And then of course it's been stressed how like the Calder Foundation was very skeptical about NFTs to begin with, or just the entire like crypto Web3 space, right? But to see them be able to change their minds about that to now collaborating with us on an NFT project, I think is such an amazing shift to see. And I think for me, like my background is also more in the traditional art space. And so I feel like it's like signaling to what we're going to see more of in the future, of more people maybe in the traditional art space or in the different, like not even just fine arts, right? But maybe like music or writing or different types of
Yes, absolutely.
mediums come over to see, I guess, like the value that NFTs have and like that they can bring. And yeah, that's, to me, that's just, it's so crazy and great to be able to see that unfold and be with such a great team like TRLab.
Great to have you on the team. And any special Calder memory for you personally?
For me, I want to say similarly to a lot of people, like I've definitely seen his works around, just growing up in a very art focused family and traveling around the States and the world. I think like one particular moment that I can remember that I also didn't piece together until working on this project with TRLab was there's like a SF MoMA store inside of the SF airport, I believe. And so growing up, I'm from Shanghai, but every summer and every winter break, I would come to SF MoMA or not SF MoMA, I would come to SF to visit a lot of my family living in California. And then I just remember every time we go to the airport, we would have time. So we would browse the SF MoMA store while we're waiting for our flights, right after checking in. And I remember buying, like being so intrigued with these little, like these tiny replicas of Alexander Calder mobiles. And just wanting to play with it and begging my mom to get one for me. And of course, back then I was so young and I didn't really know who he was or his significance. But now kind of piecing that together and then being able to work or collaborate with the Calder Foundation is such kind of like a full circle moment for me.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. Definitely sounds like there's one more place I should visit next time I visit San Francisco. So thank you, Hannah. And last but certainly not least, Ryan, our community lead. How are you doing?
Hey, Bing, I'm doing well. It's a very exciting day here, and it's so cool that so many of the TRLab team has been able to join here and share their experiences with Calder. I think that's really a testament to the fact that this is an artist that really stretches internationally and across so many people's lives. I had shared this picture in Chicago that I just took, and I would say that this statue, Flamingo, which I put in the Discord.
Yes.
It's probably the first time that I was aware of experiencing Calder, but I'm pretty sure that I probably experienced it before then. But coming to Chicago in college and encountering that work was just already just a big kind of welcome to Chicago for anybody who was into contemporary art and these fantastic stables that he built. And Flamingo is such an iconic work for everybody in Chicago, and they're really proud of it. And I think you see that in so many cities around the world where Calder's works are featured. So it's so amazing to now be a part of this experience, and I'm so excited, for more details to come out about it as we get closer. But for the moment, I also have to point out, I didn't get to go to the Roxbury estate, but talk about just a really once in a lifetime opportunity. And I hope everybody read in the Medium article that there is an opportunity for collectors actually to go to the Roxbury estate and have the experience of being on the grounds where Calder created so many of his works. That's kind of the ultimate collector perk, I think, to be able to go and retrace the footsteps of an artist that you're really passionate about, and to have that knowledge that you also then have a connection to their work in deeper ways, I think is something that'll just enrich your life forever. So I'm really excited to see that come together.
Yes, yes. A visit to Roxbury would be more exclusive than exclusive. And
Oh
thanks
yeah.
to thanks to partnership of Calder Foundation and TRLab, some of our collectors may have the opportunity to go there. So yeah, speak of which, it's a good time to encourage every one of you, like all our members online and our Discord, that if you have if in your neighborhood you have an Alexander Calder sculpture or an artwork on display, it's a good time to take photos of them, share them with our Discord community. This is one ways you can join the journey and participate. For this journey, we really emphasize on the educational component of understanding Calder's life and work. So if you can help educate your community members about who Calder is and what's your feeling about when you see his work, we'll be so grateful for it. And also, Ryan, so if in my city we don't have a Calder sculpture, what are the other ways we can do to learn more about him and participate in the Calder Question?
That's a really good question. And, I think this is something I am really, really happy that the Calder Foundation has put so much work into archiving and cataloging all of Alexander Calder's works. And I had dropped in the stream chat a link to the foundation's archive online. And you can find pretty much any work of Calder's, really, really well detailed photographs. And they also on the website have a map of locations around the world. So maybe some people can find some Calder in their city where they live, or maybe they didn't realize it existed, or look up and find a little bit more information about the sculpture that they've these stables or standing mobiles, or perhaps their local museum has a mobile hanging. They'll be able to find a little bit more information. But I think we're also going to be providing some other opportunities, of course, to interact with the Calder Foundation and learn far more about Calder and his works and his approach to creating these magnificent structures. And I think also there's a number of galleries and museums that have put together some collections of various works. Sometimes they're not the really large works. Sometimes they're the more smaller and delicate works, but I think we're going to discover probably a lot more. And I'm sure, I hope that a lot of our community starts to discover just how much Calder might be surrounding them in their lives.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes. And I like to emphasize that it's not just the amount of work that Calder has produced. He was certainly extremely prolific, but also how diverse they were. I can guarantee you that if you like painting, if you like sculpture, if you like engineering, if you like performing art, if you like music, if you search, let's say, Calder and music, you will also find a lot of information that you'll love. For example, Calder has designed the live set for several great French composers, as Calder was commissioned to produce those sets for like Eric Satie, who was a famous French composer, for his some symphonic play. So yes, definitely there are definitely some aspect of Calder that you will love, just because he had produced so much in such diverse medium. So yes, and let us know every time you see something from Calder that you connect with. Share with us your experience in Discord, and would love to know about it. And and Ryan, I haven't asked you. Can you share with us a couple of Calder work that were especially important to you?
Sure. Well, I think that the flamingo, obviously, that's kind of one that just immediately comes to my mind anytime I hear about Alexander Calder. But, you know, I also have to say, you know, walking into the Museum of Contemporary Art here in Chicago and encountering the mobiles that they have, you know, just kind of, you know, again, it puts things in a different perspective just to see something that's so massive and so bold, yet, you know, such a graceful silhouette, and the way it moves just effortlessly, with the breath of air and the, you know, probably just the movement of air of all the museum visitors that walk around it. It's truly amazing. And you know, there's another work that I was sad to learn is not available here, and I'll drop it in the stream chat and Discord. But Calder did a few, I think, you know, variations, perhaps, if you want to call it, of the universe, and or this work that he calls the universe. And probably the largest one of them all was in the base of the iconic Sears Tower here in Chicago. You know, Sears Tower for so long was the tallest skyscraper in the world, and just really just kind of a monumental testament to architecture in itself. And you know, Calder was somebody who collaborated with a ton of other artists, especially architects rather. And this work universe is just giant. And you know, they did a bunch of renovations to the lobby of the tower over the past year or two, so the work hasn't returned yet. You know, there's some talk maybe it'll get moved, but I'm hoping to see it at some point, just again to kind of appreciate it in a new context after learning so much about Calder recently. So I would say that's the big one. But you know, I'm also intrigued by some of his other works. um, he he's just done so much in terms of creating works, you know, I would say kind of in like the found art or assemblage type movements in art. He just was an incredible fabricator of about anything, it seemed. And um, you know, I'm really intrigued that some of his first works were actually creating these kind of miniature circus uh, mechanisms
Yes.
for sculpture. So um, I'm actually excited to hit up the Art Institute before I leave and check out some other works. I know he's got some other stabiles outside of the Art Institute in their gardens. But you know, I think now there's just so much more to discover. And again, I'm utilizing the Calder Foundation's site to discover a lot of this. But I will say one quick thing too. You know, I was really blown away by the number of artists, you know, architects, artists of all types that he worked with in his lifetime. And I feel like that's really that spirit of collaborative artistic creation and partnership with other, you know, artistic entities. Like it's just a real synergy, I feel like, with the NFT world in terms of the willingness for so many creatives in this space to collaborate with others in a way that a lot of the traditional art world hasn't really followed. So it's really exciting to now be working with the Calder Foundation in the spirit of this collaboration and partnership.
Yes, yes, it's very interesting you mentioned that. I think, I think partly Calder was able to collaborate with so many artists because they were all in the greatest place for artists at that time, which was Paris in 1920s, when, you know, I heard in every block there are like thousands artists from all around the world, like dancers, photographers, painters, sculptors, who can just brush shoulders with each other, and that created so much synergy among them, because one's work may inspire the others. For example, the famous dancer Josephine Baker inspired Calder to create 3 or 4 wired sculpture. And that's related to, I think related to TRLab. We are also hoping that we become a platform for many great artists, art lovers, collectors, and creators, to just stay here. This is the best place on earth to meet your fellow art enthusiasts. And maybe one day our TRLab platform will become the Paris in 1920s, where you will get to meet people who inspire you and you can inspire others. So before we wrap up, I would like to just introduce just some of the mechanism of the Calder Question partnership. I would like to share with you that the Calder Question is not a traditional NFT drop because we really emphasize on an educational journey. And because there's some unique mechanism for this project, there will not be a traditional allow list. Instead, only the most knowledgeable people among us about Calder will have an early edge, which will give us priority access to the project ahead of the general public. So yes, if you want to if you want to have an early edge compared to your fellow members, right now is a great time to start learning about Calder. And Jessica, would you like to share with us some more information about it?
Yes, I'd like to share. We have not released a lot of information about Early Edge, and more details will be coming when we launch in the fall. However, I did want to make it clear to everyone in the TRLab community that we at TRLab are always trying to reward those in our community. And with the launch of our leaderboard, this is something that we will be rewarding folks on our leaderboard with the early edge, as well as have different opportunities for folks who are maybe not as high up in the leaderboard to also have an opportunity to come in and receive that benefit. So from now to when the season begins in the fall, please stay tuned on our Discord. We'll be releasing ways slowly over the few weeks that you will be able to participate in and be awarded Early Edge.
Yes, and if you want to receive the latest information, make sure to subscribe to our mailing list. So if you go to calderquestion.trlab.com, at the top of it, there's a place for you to input your email address to receive the Calder Question specific emails. And also, of course, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, and of course, join our Discord. We will have the latest information there for you as well. Great. So thank you all, my dear teammates and friends for this chat. And yeah, cannot wait to share more information and the artwork with our members. Look forward to seeing how this collaboration will unfold. And yes, so for members who are on watching this stream live on our Discord, YouTube, and Twitter, would like to say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thank you so much for joining us. So the Calder Question has been a collaboration we've been working so hard on during the last little while, and the work has only started, and we really cannot wait to tell you more. So thank you for your continued support. Let us know if you have any feedbacks or questions. We're always there to listen and grow with the community. So yes, spread the news about this collaboration, and we hope to see you soon again. Goodbye.
Everyone.
Have a good one.